Hey, what's going on, everyone? Today I'm going to show you how to set up role-based access control on a Cisco device using Active Directory and Cisco's ACS Server. So in this topology, I'm just going to be using a few devices. I have this Server 2012 machine with the role of Active Directory installed. Here I'm just going to be creating two user groups, and they will both have basically separate entitlements attached to them. I also have the Cisco ACS server where I'm going to be doing the bulk of the work. And here on this router, R1, this will be the device that I will be accessing from the two different user accounts. Okay, so go ahead and begin by creating those user groups. One we will call TACACS full access. And then the second one we'll call TACACS limited access. All right, so we're just going to put or place a single user into each group. Go ahead and put my October user into the full access group. Click OK and apply. And then put my November user into the TACACS limited access group. Click apply. Go ahead and give this a refresh. And that's really all we need to do on this server. Okay, so now we'll go into our ACS server. And where it says access policies, we'll go ahead and drill down. And where it says default device admin, we'll go ahead and click on identity. And by default, the ACS server for authentication looks into the internal user identity store. We're not going to create an internal user database. We're going to basically use our Active Directory database. So to do that, we need to just click on the radio button, AD1, click OK, and then save those changes. We'll go to where it says Users and Identity Store. And here we'll perform the Active Directory integration by selecting Active Directory and then Join Test Connection. Here we're going to enter in the fully qualified domain name and then our user credentials. Okay, we'll go ahead and test the connection, and everything checks out okay. So we'll click Join. Now, if you did have any problems with the integration, do verify that your servers are properly time synced. Okay, so we're going to just go ahead and import those two user groups that we created in Active Directory, the full access group and then the limited access group. Click OK and save those changes. I'll go back to where it says access policies and click on authorization. And if we click create, we can see that there are 4 conditions here by default: the identity group, network device group location, network device group, device type, and time and date group. We're not going to use these. We're going to actually create our own customized rule. Okay, so we'll go ahead and throw over the AD1 external group and get rid of these 4 default conditions. We'll also send over the command set. And here we're going to actually specify what commands the users are allowed to access. And then the shell profile is where we'll specify the privilege levels. Okay, we're going to click OK. We'll create our first policy. We'll call this TACACS full access. And then we'll check the box 81 external groups, where we'll select our TACACS full access group from Active Directory. We're going to create our shell profile. All right, and we'll call this profile TACACS full access, where we'll push user to level 15 upon login. Okay, on the common tasks, I'm going to push that user to level 15. Max privilege level will be 15 as well. Click on Submit. Okay. Okay. And then the command sets we're going to create as well. All right, we'll call this command set TACACS full access. And the only thing that we're going to do here is basically check this box, permit any command that is not in the table below. So basically, once this user logs in, they are going to have unlimited access to basically all commands, and they're going to be able to access or execute every single command that the iOS or that the device has to offer. Okay, we'll click on Submit, OK, and then OK again. All right, we see that our first policy has been created. We'll create our second policy, and we'll call this TACACS limited access. Okay, and we will select our TACACS limited access group from Active Directory. We're going to create our shell profile. Create. Call this TACACS limited access, where we will push the user to level 1 upon login. We'll select our common tasks. The default privilege level will be level 1, and the maximum privilege level will be level 1. Click on Submit. Okay. Now we need to specify the commands that user will have access to at level 1. It creates. All right, we'll call this TACACS limited access. And basically, all we're going to allow this user to do is execute any command that begins with show. And then the user will need to log out of the device, so we'll allow exit as well. So this user is not going to be allowed to configure anything on the device at all. The only thing that it's going to be able to do is essentially just view things on the device. Okay. Click on Submit. Okay. And then OK again. We will save those changes, and now our 2 policies have been saved to the server. We'll click on Network Resources, and where it says Network Device and AAA Clients, we'll go ahead and click on this, and we're going to point to that router. So R1, and then type in the IP address that identifies that router. And then we'll just type in a simple password, Cisco. This will need to match on the device. Click on Submit. And now we're done here on the ACS server. Okay, so now we need to go over to our router to begin issuing our AAA commands. We need to issue the AAA new model. We need to specify the sources of authentication for login, and so that will be our TAC server, and if that becomes unavailable, we'll fall back to the local user database. All right, authorization needs to be confirmed before giving users access to the exec shell. Okay, so that's going to be with AAA authorization exec, and the authorization will be made by the TAC server, and then fall back to the local user database if unavailable. All right, so in order for our authorization commands to properly take effect, we need to issue AAA authorization config commands, and then we also need to specify the privilege levels that we want to use. So authorization commands 0 defaults for group TACAX, and then local, and then we will also want to use level 1 and level 15. All right, the last thing that we need to do is just point to our server, and that has the IPv4 address .4, and the key, which we set on the ACS server, was Cisco. Okay, so at this point here, should be able to log into our device. Just increase the font on this. And we'll first begin by testing our user with full level access. And that user was October. And it should push us immediately into user exec mode, which it does. All right. And let's just test a couple commands here. I mean, it doesn't look like we're having any issues at all as far as configuring, anything or executing anything. So that's good. So we'll back out of this. And now we will test our user with limited access. And that user was November. And the only thing that this user should be allowed to execute are show commands and the exit command. And it should put us into user mode, which it does. You can see that the prompt here is different. If I try to type in enable, basically it says that the command is rejected, a command is not authorized. If I type in log out, that's not authorized as well. Help, that's not authorized as well. But if I type in a show command, let me fix that. Show IP interface brief. See, I have access to a show command. There's output displayed. If I do a show ARP, see more output displayed. And so everything's working the way that it should. The last thing is our exit command. We should be allowed to execute that, and that does disconnect us. All right, so that pretty much does it for setting up role-based access control on a Cisco device using both Active Directory and Cisco ACS Server. Hopefully this has been helpful. Have a good day.